Hello, welcome back. We're on chapter 14, Firms in Competitive Markets. I'm going to do a short little video here to look at marginal revenue and give an overview of the chapter. So what are competitive markets? Reading directly from the textbook here, market with many buyers and sellers trading identical products so that each buyer or seller has basically no market power. They're a price taker. The company selling have no say. The customers buying have no say. There are lots of buyers, lots of sellers. This chapter looks at it through the lens of a perfectly competitive market, which means all the products are identical. Classic examples of this are like commodities markets, agricultural markets. You're talking about a bushel of wheat, a gallon of milk, that type of thing. All the products are basically the same. Quick lighting adjustment here. And that didn't quite do what I wanted to. There we go. I wanted you to be able to see the board. So, in competitive markets, all the products are identical. There's no like slight differences, no like Samsung versus Apple type thing. This is one bushel of corn versus another bushel of corn. And it's our first foray into what are four different types of markets. We're going to have competitive markets, in this case, a perfectly competitive market. We're going to have monopolistically competitive markets. We're going to have monopolies and oligopolies, and that's how we basically wind up the course. So we're what I like to call the money chapters. The table behind me, you're going to see us working off of table 2 in your book. So page 271, chapter 14, we're going to look at revenue. And revenue is just price times quantity. And in particular, what we're going to look at is marginal revenue. If you recall from the cost chapters, we did everything basically to come down with the number that is marginal cost. Now we're going to come down to what is marginal revenue. And as you can already see in the rule over here on the board, you always want to operate where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. We'll spend a little more time on that here in a second. Marginal revenue, remember marginal, economics being a language course, marginal just means, next, what's next, your next unit. What is the marginal revenue? So what is the revenue you get from your next unit of output? It's a change in total revenue from additional units sold. The reason why this is very, very important is you want to look at how much money you're making at each unit of production, because you got to be obsessed with controlling your costs. And if you keep hiring people beyond a point where you're making money, you're going to start losing money. So this chapter is going to begin your progress through the four different types of markets, that will make you quite useful to any business, in that as long as you can figure out which type of market you're in, you can tell exactly how much you need to produce. And if you can tell how much exactly you need to produce, you know how many people you need to hire, how many inputs you need to buy, that type of thing. So it's a very, very useful chapter. Let's take a look at table 2. Right here behind me, we are going through. You get out of the way here. We're going to look at table 2 in your textbook again. I've just replicated it here on my board at home. We are looking at quantities, and quantities 0 through 8, and these are actually, I think gallons of milk is the example in the reading. But they can work for anything, and I know these are very small numbers, but imagine, this is like not 1, but 10,000 or 10 million or whatever. We have quantity, we have total revenue, which is price times quantity. We have total cost, which is fixed cost versus variable cost. We covered all that in the last chapter. And then we have profit. All right, let's talk about profit. That's fun, right? Total revenue minus total cost. Whatever's left over is profit. Now, if your costs exceed your revenues, you're going to have a loss. But we'll get to, by the end of this chapter, you'll start to see that you want to operate profit or loss in the short run, if there's a loss only, where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. So what is marginal revenue? It's the change in total revenue given some change in quantity. Change in TR, remember the delta, the triangle, is change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity. So what's changing here? We're moving from 0 units to 1 unit in quantity. That's the quantity change here. We're moving then from total revenue. If you're not producing any product, you don't make any revenue. But if you do make, say, 1 more gallon of milk, you're going to make $6. Okay, that's great. That's revenue, though. That's not profit. You haven't taken the costs out. So there's a difference. There's a difference between revenue and profit. You must remember that. So in going from 0 units to 1 unit, you go from $0 to $6. Now it's 1 unit, so you can do some deduction here. If you're selling 1 unit, you make $6. That's price. Price times quantity. Quantity is 1. Total revenue is 6. That must mean your price is, well, $6. So you can deduce that from the evidence on the board. So by going from 0 to 1 unit, you go from 0 total revenue to 6. Your marginal revenue is $6. Going from 0 to 1, you make 1 more unit. Your marginal revenue is $6. Your marginal cost, and this is given here, is $2. That's a hurting looking 2 over here. $2. So your change in profit. This is not just your. We don't have. Well, actually, we do have total cost in the thing. We have a profit of $1. But your change in profit, this last category over here, is your marginal revenue is $6 and your marginal cost is $4. So your change in revenue is $4. Or excuse me, $6, $2. Let me start this over again, right? Marginal revenue is $6. Marginal cost is $2. That's a difference of 4. So your change in total profit is $4. Okay. So by selling that 1 unit, you made 4 more bucks in profit. All right. I'll get on track. We can do the same thing throughout here. Okay. But every time we're adding 1 more unit, and every unit's being sold at $6, so that's actually pretty straightforward. The marginal revenue, then every time going from 1 to 2 units, you go from $6 in total revenue to 12, 2 to 3, you go from 12 to 18, 18 to 24, so on and so forth. You can see every time, long story short, every time this marginal revenue goes up by $6. Now, this is something that's just unique to perfectly competitive markets in that the products are not different at all. In the next video, we'll do a graph. We'll graph this. Remember, the graph is your friend. We'll graph this, and you'll see that the marginal revenue is actually flat. Now, every chapter moving forward, you won't see a flat marginal revenue like that. It'll be downward sloping. So, in a competitive market, it's no one has market power. The market just says, hey, a bushel of wheat is worth this much money, or it's $6, or a gallon of milk is $6. So the farmer, the rancher, whoever, the dairyman, is going to take that price, and they have no say because it's a competitive market. Now, that said, you're a consumer in that market. You don't really get to negotiate what you pay for milk either. So that's the crux of a perfectly competitive market. So every time marginal revenue goes up by $6, all right? But your marginal cost, remember, ties back to total cost here, okay? You change from 0 to 1 units, your total cost goes from 3 to 5. That's a marginal cost of 2, okay? It goes from 5 to 8. It's a marginal cost of 3. So from the last chapter, we learned that that's how you get marginal cost. But what you want to start paying attention to is right here. 6 is greater than 2. 6 is greater than 3. 6 is greater than 4. When we're looking at marginal cost being greater than marginal revenue. 6 is greater than 5, but we're getting closer. Okay, 6 equals 6. Look at that rule over there. Okay, always operate with marginal cost equals marginal revenue. File that away. 6 is less than 7. You've now cost yourself $1 in profit. You're taking profit away. 6 is less than 8. You're losing 2 more bucks. 6 is less than 9. This is 3. You've basically produced too much. You've hired too many employees, or you've bought too much hay for your dairy, or whatever it is. You do not absolutely want to go past this point. Okay? You always want to operate where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, or marginal revenue equals marginal cost. You want to operate right here. All right? Now, here's the trick. Everybody's like, oh, okay, well, that must mean we want to stop at 4. Well, you got to be careful, because to get a marginal revenue of 6, right there on the first one, and a marginal cost of 2, you had to go from 0 to 1. So for marginal cost to be 3, you had to go from 1 to 2. For it to be 4, you had to go from 2 to 3. For it to be 5, you had to go from 3 to 4. For it to be 6, which is where you want to be, you have to go from 4 to 5. Okay? So you want to produce 5. right? You want to produce 5 because that's what you got for going from 4 to 5 in terms of output. So keep that in mind. That's a little tricky thing that can catch people on the homework and the test. You have to go from 4 to 5, okay, to get to where marginal cost is 6, your marginal revenue is 6, and basically you have squeezed every bit of profit out of this market before you start getting into negative land over here. And you want to avoid that. You do not want to go past this, okay? Run that tank dry in terms of profit that you're getting, all right, without taking away previous profits. Because what happens here is you could say, well, the profit, they still have a profit here. Well, do we? Because now my profit, this is just if I produce right here, is 7 minus 1, that's 6. I could add 7 back here. Here it's 6 minus 2, that's 4, so on and so forth. I'm losing money. So you can get to a point where you produce too much. So you always want to operate where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. All right. Come back for the next video. We will take this table, and again, tables, man, can you imagine if this was hundreds of thousands of data points? Tables can be quite tedious. This is just the explanation of it on a very basic level. Come back in the next video, and we'll do some graphs. All right. Thanks.